It's true. They couldn't score at a Heidi Fleiss pool party if they walked in with Charlie Sheen. Unbelievable. That may be too archaic of a reference to describe the ineptitude of a team's ability to put points on the board, whatever sport you happen to be talking about. I don't know. The after parties at the AVN Awards, what do you think? That might be a pretty wild time. Maybe you can even connect with Stormy Daniels. We know some fat guy with orange hair that managed to do that a long time ago. But anyway, that was the story of the Miami Heat last night in their inept effort against the Boston Celtics. They are up against it. Nobody would debate that. And you were having to lay 10.5 points in that game. And it turned out that was a very profitable situation and position to take. Now, if you're looking to make some money betting, BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports this season. From MLB, golf, NBA, and NHL playoff stats, all the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. You get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. There's nothing that you can't bet on practically. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on all the action. Bet online, where the game starts. Game started in the first quarter there and was okay. And then by the time you got to the middle of the second quarter, Lubie, the Flowers were in the punch. Turn out the lights. The party's over. That was last night's Heat-Celtics game. Now, we were zeroed in on that because we hail from South Florida, and we had two teams in action. It was a tale of two teams. The Heat badly compromised by injury. Jimmy Butler out, sprained MCL. And it looks like he'll be returning to the Heat next season, maybe with a different configuration of players, Lubie, because you can't keep handing Eric Spoelstra the Washington Generals and expect them to beat the Globetrotters night in and night out. Holy fucking red clots, what are we talking about here? That was a paltry lineup that he had going out to match up against the Celtics, who had not their primary scorer, not their secondary scorer, not their third scorer, but their fourth guy, Derek White, go for 38 points in the ballgame last night. The man was on fire. He was phenomenal, and it was no contest all the way. So was that the wake-up call, the proverbial wake-up call when the Heat made 23 threes in Game 2 in Boston and actually gave rise to hope that maybe the 8th seed could go in there and do it again, make their way all the way to the NBA Finals? But too many injuries, too many compromises. Terrence Rozier also out of the lineup. And before you know it, that game became blowout city. And the only thing that was left to be decided, Lubie, was the spread.
Yep.
Now, across town, I mean, we had a good time. It was party time for the NHL fans here in South Florida as the Florida Panthers closed out their series against always a dangerous commodity. You have to say the Tampa Bay Lightning, there's a little bit of an in-state rivalry there. There's some bad blood between the two teams. They usually end up coming to blows somewhere early in the contest. It's not atypical of any hockey game, but a little less so in the postseason. You don't see as many fights taking place in the postseason because who wants to be in this penalty box when the game-winning score takes place? So the Panthers, they handled their business relatively easily. It was a competitive game for 2 periods, and then they break away. Are they primed, in your opinion, Mike Lubie-Lubitz, the Florida Panthers, often overlooked because you know what they say about South Florida. The only thing people know about that has ice surrounding it is what's in the bottom of a martini glass. Never mind being big hockey fans. But the Panthers have attracted some interest over the last couple of years. They make the Stanley Cup Finals a year ago. They were probably a better team this year, even though they won the President's Cup, the President's Trophy last year as the best team statistically in the game, but came back in with some changes, significant changes. This guy, Bill Zito, he should be a candidate for Executive of the Year. There's no doubt about that. But they handled the Tampa Bay Lightning with relative ease, and they blow them out 6-1 last night. So they were partying in Sunrise, Florida, and face down in the gutter along Biscayne Bay as the Miami Heat appear certainly destined to be knocked out of the postseason in the very next contest against the Boston Celtics when they go back to Beantown, who the fans there certainly would expect the Celtics to redeem themselves from that embarrassment in game number 2. What did you think, Lubie? I mean, you couldn't have given much of a chance for the Heat in the series without Jimmy Butler and without Terrence Rozier. But nonetheless, we had a brief moment there where we're euphoric, thinking upsets happen, and this may be a big one. But where does that lead the Miami Heat? I mean, doesn't it appear that they need to do some kind of serious restructuring if they're going to be contenders in the long run?
Look, I mean, Bam, Adebayo, Tyler Hero, and even Caleb Martin had nice numbers on the stat sheet. If you watch the game, though, And I guess maybe Bam woke up in the second half. I watched the first half. He was fucking useless in the first half. And look, Derek White had to hit the shots. He did. So I give him credit for hitting the shots. But when a guy's made a career, and literally the reason he's in the league is because if you give him an open three, he'll hit it. Then don't give him a fucking open three. Well, the Heat, 3 out of these 4 games have been dreadful defensively around the 3-point line. And the Celtics, that's literally their offense, is Tatum and Brown driving, guys that are barely NBA players hitting open threes. That's their entire game.
I think Hank Finkel had 4 points in the game.
I mean, Hauser wouldn't be on any other roster. Peyton Pritchard is not an NBA player. And Derek White's fine, but Derek White's not what Boston Celtics fans have built him up to be. Against the Miami Heat he is, though, and that's what we've seen in the series. And the Heat just don't have it on offense. I mean, Butler's their best all-around offensive player, and Rozier had become their 3rd best. And at times they're 2nd, and even 1st when Butler and Hero were out. They were already out, man. So I thought they'd lose in 5. Getting one in Boston, I was like, okay, they should be able to steal one at home. And then you lose in 6. I mean, it wasn't going to be more than a 6-game series, but it was like, cool. Maybe they can rough up the Celtics a little bit, take it to 6. They just don't. I mean, they offensively, yeah. In the end, Bam, Hero, and Martin had decent games. But if you watch the games, they weren't there. It was a joke. And by the time they woke up, it was the second half, and there was a 20 to 30 point game. The Celtics are a good team, and the Celtics don't go away, and they're not going to just give it. And Porzingis did get hurt, which I've been touting all fucking year. It seems like he should.
You finally had a moment of redemption there when Porzingis pulled a calf muscle. We don't know the level of seriousness of this injury. He didn't return to the game, but there was really no need to put him back out there. It's interesting, too, with Porzingis, because he wouldn't qualify as a 7-foot-plus geek. But if you think about the history of the Boston Celtics, they have employed 2 of the most gangly, awkward, useless 7-foot geeks in the history of the NBA, and going way back to my man Mel Counts, who could shoot the ball a little bit out of the corner, but was certainly a strange figure. That was at a time he may have been the only 7-footer in the league. And, of course, the human victory cigar, Henry Finkel. Remember Red Auerbach? Well, you're too young to remember Red Auerbach.
I've heard of him very well.
Yeah, I remember Red.
I don't remember him, but I know Finkel very well.
You have to go to Century Village to find somebody that remembers Red Auerbach. But he used to look down the bench there, and as soon as the game looked like it was completely out of reach, he'd go, "Hey, Hank, take the pants off." And he would send Henry Finkel into the ballgame as a human victory cigar. It was great. But, yeah, that being said, I mean, they were getting a lot of mileage out of Porzingis. I would imagine he would be very instrumental in any success they would have in the future rounds of the playoffs. The Boston Celtics would be awaiting the winner of the Cavs-Orlando series, which has been kind of a weird thing, with the Cavs winning easily in their 2 games at home and Orlando just crushing Cleveland like a grape in the other 2 games. Why is the NBA so embarrassed about that series, Lubie? I think they had it on C-SPAN last night. Not sure where you can find it. Has anybody seen a Cavaliers-Orlando game? We know the series is tied at 2 apiece, and the 2 teams meet again tonight for what will be, can we say it? A pivotal Game 5 coming up in this series. Yeah, highly pivotal. Although, as we contend, all games in the postseason are pivotal. Let's face it. Makes a huge difference where you're coming from, whether you're down 1-0, tied up at 1 apiece. For the word pivotal to be tossed around is sort of meaningless, because every game is crucial in the postseason, including teams that are down 3-0. Let's face it. They, have a chance. They come back, they chip away, they win 1. There was a reason to hope, even in that hockey game last night, that the Lightning, if you were a Tampa Bay fan or you just hated the Florida Panthers or had bet against them, and you were hoping that they would lose, I mean, all of a sudden you have a 3-2 series. If the Lightning were able to get over the hump there, they couldn't. Right there, tapping on the door. They had 2 goals disallowed in the game, both somewhat questionable. I always like when the rules official just goes ahead and capitulates to whatever bad call the officials made on the ice. Is that the most useless position now? It used to be the sideline reporter, with apologies to our dear friend Leslie Visser, who was brilliant at the job. But for the most part, the sideline reporter really doesn't accomplish a whole hell of a lot, does he? Or she? Nope. They get a couple of cliches out of the coach. Yeah, well, you know what? We got to protect the perimeter a little bit better. We got to get out there. We can't let White just keep shooting those threes. Thanks, Eric. Now I'll go read some Nietzsche, because that wasn't quite deep enough for me. But, yeah, I mean, pretty much useless. But the most useless job in all of sports now is the replay official, who usually is a retired official that the league must owe some money to. in a desire to keep that person quiet about all the bullshit that went on while that guy was actually officiating or in charge of officials in whatever league it happens to be. What the hell is Gene Steratore doing, giving you the official opinion about calls being made in a college lacrosse game? Get out of here. It's a reach. But we don't need this. All right, the other games, though, they've hidden this series, the Cavaliers and the Orlando Magic. Are they still playing? I know they're 2-2. Did they just suspend the series? They've been on Nickelodeon. They've been on True TV. You're seeing highlights of the Trump hush money trial, and then the next thing you know, you're getting the highlights of the basketball game. Nobody seems to give a flying one, including the NBA, about that particular series. Last night, though, Denver eliminates the Lakers. They shoot horses, don't they? They put them out of their misery, didn't they? So what happens with LeBron, Lubie, in your opinion? He comes back as a Laker with Anthony Davis. I don't know why, but I don't see LeBron James. I'm not sure that Bronny James belongs in the NBA next year based on his 5 points per game. I know he had the heart problem before the season. I haven't seen enough Bronny James to give you a definitive judgment about whether or not he's an NBA player. Have you? I mean, is he an NBA player?
No, not now.
After averaging 5 points a game in his freshman year at USC.
He would probably be in college for another 2 years and then maybe find his way into an NBA roster. But the whole LeBron thing, someone's going to draft him. Someone's going to give him a chance. Feels like the Spurs may be those people because they do need to surround Wemby with talent. And LeBron's always been open to playing for Pop. He liked playing for Pop in the Olympics. It's a weird thing, LeBron, because at this point of his career, he really want to up and move again, and I get it. He has houses all over the country. Fine. But he still would be out of another city. Does he really want to do that? But the other side of it is they're not winning in LA. The Thunder are only going to get better. The T-Wolves are only going to get better. The Nuggets, even next Gordon may be a free agent, they're still going to be there. I mean, like the Lakers are going to be in the logjam at the bottom of the Western Conference. The Kings are still around there, they're not going to be better. So is he going to just play to play because he's not going to win? That second year in a row that they were swept by this same Nuggets team. It's interesting to me to see what he does. I'm curious why he just doesn't hang it up. I guess the playing with his son thing.
Looks like he's got another year or two left, doesn't he?
He's playing great. He led them in scoring. All these Jordan fans are like, Jordan never. Okay, well, Jordan didn't play to lose 30-9 after playing.
No.
It's so stupid, the debate. I just let
he looked like an NBA bag lady with the Wizards, didn't he? He was one of those guys that you're thinking, why is this guy hanging on? I mean, somebody give him a sandwich and send him to the shelter.
LeBron was the third or fourth best player in the series with playing the team that's probably going to win back-to-back championships. And he's still, you could put other guys ahead of him. He's a top 10 player in the league still, at 39.
No doubt.
He is. So
look at his line last night. He had nearly a triple-double. He was one rebound away, I think, from a triple-double in this ball game last night. 39 and 11.
Yeah, he's playing
unbelievable for like a 50-year-old guy that was playing in a feudal situation because you knew that Denver was going to spank the Los Angeles Lakers in this series. The Lakers had virtually no shot whatsoever. I mean, they were just thrown into the ocean with cement shoes on and had no chance to beat this team. I'm with you. I mean, you have to look at the teams that are so-called on to come in the Western Conference, and we saw them establish themselves and give some definition to the idea that they really were good. Big emergence by the Minnesota Timberwolves this year. You were talking about the symmetry with Karl Anthony Towns, who was usually a disgruntled player, but seemed to do you become gruntled when you're no longer disgruntled? I guess you do.
You do. No one uses
right?
that.
Has anybody said, hey, Lubie, you know what? You look kind of gruntled today.
You would say pleased or content, I feel like. But yes, it is a word. We've looked it up. It's a fucking weird word.
Watching the Lakers, though, against the Denver Nuggets, I mean, it's sad to say, but you remember ESPN Classics, and for some reason they had a limited vault of all fights. So all they could give you every night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, whatever night you happen to be tuned in, you were seeing Jerry Quarry get the shit beaten out of him by one of the greats in the heavyweight division. One night it's Joe Frazier. The next night it's Ali. Next night it's George Foreman. It didn't matter. Every night you're watching this guy just get whacked. And that's kind of what it's like watching the Laker-Denver Nuggets series. No matter what they do, it doesn't matter. They could show you skill. They could show you that AD still has it. That LeBron at 40-something years old, I guess, what is he, 39? Still, I mean, if he had this line as a rookie, people would be saying, the guy's sensational.
Yeah, it's what Luka does, and people call him arguably the second best player in the league. It's not any different than what Luka does.
And this is a toned down LeBron, trying to conserve energy and not necessarily do as many things as he used to in terms of exerting himself, running back and forth. He's still making defensive plays. Pretty incredible. And yet seems doomed, seems destined. I doubt with all of his interest in the entertainment industry that he would want to move out of Los Angeles and, say, play 1 year in Milwaukee with Antetokounmpo. I don't think that's happening, no matter what happens with Bronny James. And I would imagine that Bronny James ends up playing college basketball this year. That's my thought. Now, how about that for expert? Holy Hubie Brown, what are we talking about? What the fuck do I know about what Bronny James is going to do? The answer, people, would be nothing. So if you're watching this show and you're thinking, hey, I heard some guy say that Bronny James is going to stay in school, that is not on any kind of authority or with any kind of inside information. Like the inside information we had about the Miami Marlins, by the way.
Games in a row. Oof.
Anybody that looked at us as clowns, Lubie, and said, those guys don't know what they're talking about, went ahead, bet the over on that.
Oh, that's dumb.
We are just counting the days until Louis Lipschitz calls and says, okay, I got your money. Meet me in the graveyard, 10 o'clock. Hubie Brown's great, though. I always love mentioning Hubie Brown because my favorite thing always was when he was doing the NBA draft. I think Hubie Brown should be involved in all draft coverage. Don't you, Louie? Hubie Brown could take any player that's drafted, no matter how poor of a pick it was, and convince you that this was the greatest selection ever made.
Oh, yeah.
And it was better than picking Brady in the 6th round. I used to love this. You would have, and they went all the way through the 2nd round draft with Hubie Brown. He would be there on the coverage the next day when nobody was tuned in. And you would see the San Antonio Spurs select some guy back when they were great. And they had Tony Parker and company and all of these terrific players, Ginobili and Tim Duncan, and they would pick somebody that's never going to make the team. They would literally pick like a circus midget. They would pick Billy Barty with a 2nd round pick, just as a joke. And Hubie would say, "That's an awesome selection. The man's center of gravity is low to the ground. He can dribble. He can shoot. He doesn't have to do much here. He's with a bunch of all-stars. Billy Barty to the San Antonio Spurs. That is a knockout. That is a situation that's going to put them right over the top. That's why they're a great organization." It's like, Hubie, man, the guy's a fucking midget.
Never playing a minute for that.
I love that, man, when they go crazy over a draft selection. We talked briefly yesterday, and I can't get past this, the fact that the Jets selected Mr. Irrelevant, because their tendency, their history is to take any first-round selection and make them irrelevant.
Yes.
This thing is annoying.
They're actually really good at that. Taking guys.
Right? Sam Darnold is irrelevant at this point. Do you even know what team Sam Darnold's on? Now, where is he? Is he in Denver? Where the fuck is Sam Darnold? We don't know. Zach Wilson, also known as Hack Wilson. Yep. I think he went to Denver, didn't he, in a trade? Then they get like a 6th round pick from Denver.
Denver and Darnold's in Minnesota. And I only know that because.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yesterday about them not rushing McCarthy. They have Darnold. I'm like, I don't know.
That would be all the more. I would rush McCarthy there in an ambulance.
Did they say that out loud and read it?
Think about it. Going, back to Blair Thomas. Almost anybody that the Jets have selected in the 1st round of the draft becomes Mr. Irrelevant. So why do they have to wait to the 257th pick to deem this guy Mr. Irrelevant? Kind of an interesting aspect of what came out of the National Football League draft, which I don't know that we can hear enough about. People are still talking about it, and here we are referencing it, but only because of the bizarre elements. Still waiting for that guy to get up, the general manager of a team, Lubie, after the draft is over and say, Jesus fucking Christ, man. How blind are our scouts? This is the worst group of slop I've ever seen in my life. I should resign right now. This is a disgrace. It's always, we feel like we really got some great talent here and about as good as we could possibly do. All bullshit, my friends, because out of the 32 teams, probably 20 of them had really lousy drafts. But they're just too ashamed to admit it. All right. We're hoping you guys have a good draft. You have action going tonight, yes. NBA and NHL. Chance for many teams to wrap up their series. Hurricanes up 3-1 on the Islanders. The Bruins up 3-1 on the Leafs. Bruins would be up next for the Florida Panthers. Whoever wins that series, you're assuming that the Bruins in full command there because they've outplayed the Maple Leafs so far pretty handily. The Avalanche are up 3-1 on the Winnipeg Jets after losing the first game. And the Canucks are now up 3-1 on the Nashville Predators. So a chance for all four of those series to close out tonight. The Oilers hold a 3-1 edge over the Kings. That game is tomorrow night. NBA, the Knicks have a chance to wrap it up. What do you think, Knicks 76ers? Can the 76ers give it a go at Madison Square Garden tonight? Or is it time once again? That game actually is being sponsored in New York by a famous funeral home because they figure they're going to bury the 76ers tonight. What do you think?
I don't know what to do with the Sixers. Embiid went from being great in game 3 to being a disaster in game 4. I mean, he was not good. He had so many turnovers in that first half. It sparked the Knicks in a way that it just didn't make sense. They're at home. I don't know. It feels like the Sixers may have a little life left, but the way Brunson's been playing, the way the Sixers have just been totally lost on the defensive glass.
How many offensive rebounds do the Knicks have in the series? They're getting like 5 per possession, aren't they?
In that last game, they did whatever. I mean, the Sixers really felt like the better team. The Knicks were missing left and right. They just were very active on the glass, and the Sixers were just watching. So
too much to overcome, those 3 bizarre losses that the Sixers have incurred in the series. Cavs and the Magic, I'm reading here. I'm trying to see where this game is being televised. They're going to bump Gilligan's Island on the CW.
I think it's NBC.
Maybe. They may show the first episode, that they normally air, Gilligan's Island, and then work in a little Cavs Magic. The series that for some reason the NBA is ashamed of. And the Pacers and the Bucks, Doc Rivers, sayonara here, although you can't blame the good doctor on this one if he's going without Antetokounmpo and Lillard. Don't know Lillard's status, but wow, I mean,
both are probably out.
It's Beetle City, isn't it? Because it's not what it appears to be. This Jamal Murray thing with Denver last night supposed to be questionable right up to game time. They're asking a guy, hey, can you play Jamal? 32 points. He had 3 rebounds. He's not a rebounder. 7 assists in the ball game. 40 minutes on the floor, including the game winner with 3.6 seconds to go.
Yep.
I guess questionable was a bit of a vague definition of what his status really was. Well, why don't he just say he's going to set one of the all-time great standards for playoff activity in this ball game tonight? But instead, a lot of people went to the windows thinking, no Murray. Well, the Lakers did cover the point spread there. They were getting 7.5. All right, we have to run. A lot of fun being with you. It's just absolutely amazing. Wall-to-wall action, NBA, NHL, all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So we'll do it again tomorrow for you here on Caffeine TV and NoFilter.net. For Mike Lubie-Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in to today's edition of the Morning Briefing.